ஐயோ, உங்களோட மைக் மியூட்ல இருக்கு.
உங்களுடைய மைக் மியூட். ஒரு நிமிடம்.
Vanakkam, Namaskar, Namaskaram, Vandanamu, whatever. I, with respects to all the scholars there, I am speaking to you, talking to you from Pondicherry or the Puducherry from in the French Institute of Pondicherry, not French, exactly the French Asian School of Orient. That means EFU. I am glad to join you. I wish that I could have joined you in person, but because of my age and also they are celebrating the 75th birthday of me at Coimbatore and in Pondicherry, everything is over now. Now this is third program in the series, and really I am glad. So I start my speech. Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Swanti Shri Pandit, Professor Mazhar Asif, Dean School of Languages, Professor Om Prakash Singh, Chairperson of CAL, Professor Anwar Alam, Professor of Urdu, Dr. Damodaran or Aravindan, Professor of Tamil, and Professor Sujada, who is going to give the keynote address. It is really a great occasion for me because I am the surviving one among the two translators. Professor Balasubramaniam, I represent Balasubramaniam now. It is really a memorable event for both of us to see that our translation of TOLKΑPPIYAM into Hindi has been published and also taken for a analysis or review by the scholars of JNU. Let me be brief, but let me tell the history behind it. When the Tamil chair in the JNU was established in 2007, I was invited by Professor B.B. Patacharya to join the JNU to start the program on the eve of my retirement from the Kerala University, where I worked for 40 years. So I joined here on invitation by the JNU to start the Tamil program of the chair established by the government of Tamil Nadu. As soon as I joined, I started to make elaborate, because there were no colleagues for me at that time. Only my colleagues were Hindi and Urdu professors. They were very helpful and they offered all inputs to prepare a blueprint for action. So I actually, when I started the program, some 6 aspects were in my mind. That is to start to offer the facilities for research of Tamil graduates, especially from Tamil Nadu, to facilitate them to imbibe or to grasp or to acquire academic skills and acumen of national and international standards by undertaking learning more languages, making comparative studies, making use of these facilities, excellent facilities provided by the JNU, because there is no such facility elsewhere in India. That is a great advantage for us. And then to teach Tamil to the non-Tamil teachers, non-Tamil learners, especially Hindi and other learners. And the third is to expand the horizon of Tamil studies beyond the narrow confines of Tamil language and literature, to make it interdisciplinary, to make it multidisciplinary. Acquiring, I hope you are following me. This is a current interruption. So we want to expand the horizon of Tamil studies with interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary areas, theories, methodologies, not only in literature and language, but also on cultural studies. Taking advantage of the enormous, I have told, the facilities offered by the JNU, which is really a great, truly a great Indian institution of very high eminence in any international standards. So then the fourth is to encourage intensive interaction between the Tamil scholars and other scholars in other disciplines, other languages. And fifth is to explore and to, how to say, to expand the facilities of international cooperation by entering into MOUs with other international academic institutions. Because of my contacts with them, I worked in Germany and Poland and elsewhere. So it was also in my mind to make the interaction more, to make it more international, to enter into MOUs. And then sixth is to encourage the faculty to undertake projects, individual projects, to achieve our goals. So this was the background, and to achieve that, we are able to start. I could appoint another gentleman, Dr. Chandrasekharan, because I was designated as the professor of Tamil by JNU University Grants Commission funds, and so the fund provided by the Tamil Nadu government was made to create another position in the form of a lecturership, in which Dr. Chandrasekharan was appointed. And so we together jointly organized the program, and we started MPhil PhD program with the new state-of-the-art syllabus and curriculum and syllabi, with the help of our other colleagues, Urdu and Hindi colleagues in the center. And then when there was a lot of admission. We admitted a lot of MPhil and PhD scholars, and I think that is growing, and it has helped us to train a pool of talent for scholars, not in the traditional way of learning Tamil. They are multidisciplinary, they are multilingual scholars who can translate, who can do comparative studies. That is the main focus of our program. So main focus of the program is to take multilingual and multidisciplinary studies, making the translation compulsory, and comparative studies. And because of that, now I can see a new band of scholars who can do translations between languages at the higher level. And then I could also initiate measures to enter into an MOU, and I could get an MOU with the University of Köln from Germany. Because of that, two of our scholars went to Köln for a few semesters and got trained. And later that could not be renewed. I don't know what happened. This is the background. And then on our personal part, myself, I thought of doing some project for which because my special training is in grammar and linguistics and classical literature, classical side. And the fund is also meant for propagating the classical Tamil studies. So I'm also specializing in TOLKΑPPIYAM. So I thought that the TOLKΑPPIYAM was not translated into Hindi at that time fully, maybe some part by Kashiram and others. and everybody was requesting me, my colleagues and outside scholars like Professor Avdesh Singh, whoever I met, why don't you do that? And so I actually at that time I had the fortune of getting the help of Professor H. Balasubramanian. He's a great noble soul. He's how to say, he's a great soul. He's a great scholar, multidisciplinary scholar, and very hardworking. He passed away at the age of 90. Till his last breath, he was working. Um, and he used to come from Mayurvihar in the morning. I will tell later the story. So I proposed, I invited him for a talk, and then we decided to undertake the translation of TOLKAPPIYAM, because I'm only a scholar in Tamil. I know Hindi. I studied Hindi up to the school level, but it was not my area of specialization. So I cannot do that. So only a scholar in Hindi who has the background in grammar and linguistics can do that. Now, apart from that, Balasubramaniam is a scholar in Sanskrit too. He specialized in Hindi grammar and Hindi linguistics, and his PhD was on the contrastive grammar of Hindi and Tamil. And moreover, I have a personal acquaintance with the family of Balasubramaniam, because having lived in Trivandrum, I know the family of Harihar Iyer, his father. They have 3 sons and 1 daughters, and all of them are Hindi professors. And only the surviving professor is Salamelu Krishnan, who also is appearing on the online from Chennai. And the other 3, that is Balasubramaniam, Parameswaran, and Padmanabhan, all passed away recently. Their family is a great family, originally hailing from Tirunelveli district. They are great scholars in Sanskrit and Tamil, and they mastered Malayalam. And so, when Balasubramaniam joined in the Central Hindi Directorate, I actually studied under him as a student. So that was the opportunity, and so we have a personal relationship. And finally, we decided to launch the project, and we approached the Central Institute of Classical Tamil, Chennai, and they agreed to give the funding. By this modern standard, it is a very meager fund, and the big chunk of the amount has yet to come for both of us. Already he left, and I don't know, and he is also not after money. Balasubramaniam is a very, very academic man. He is not a materialistic man. He used to come, we undertake the project. He used to come from Mayurvihar every day in the morning, and he used to work like a student. He will study all the commentaries of TOLKAPPIYAM and come with like a student, and will ask questions to me, and we both discussed, and he will come prepared with a draft, and we will sit together, read and finalize. And for 5 days, 3 days he will come, and sometimes he will come a few more days, even on Saturdays. So that is how we work. And he was not only a great scholar and teacher, also a great student like me. So we had a very, very close personal relationship, personal equation. We have a mutual respect. So he achieved a great feat. He is a great scholar. He translated many classical bhakti poem, modern literature, and everything into Hindi. From Hindi, he has translated Paniswara, Renu, and other people's thing. And more, apart from a great translator, he is a man of he's a humanist. Most of our students come from the very, how to say, very, very first generation learners, coming from very economically and otherwise deprived communities. And all of them, he treated them, though he's a Brahmin, he has no Brahminical taboos. So he treated them very well, and he trained them in Sanskrit and many other languages, even though he was not a faculty. But he worked like a faculty, and later I had the good fortune of inviting him to join the CAL as the visiting faculty with us, and he worked there for 2 years. beyond 80, he could not follow, he could not continue that. So it was not, we were not able to continue services. But in spite of that, he used to come every day and work with the students. And he was our the third professor to train our students. So this is the background. Now I will be brief because there is another speaker. So with this input, I would say that Tulgap, I am not also not going to elaborate. Tulgapim is the earliest extant grammar in Tamil, supposed to be written around the beginning of the first millennium, and it is a grammar which definitely has been influenced by Sanskrit tradition. He draw many things from the Sanskrit models. Actually, the main aspect of Tamil and Sanskrit grammar is, if you look at the whole world grammatical tradition, at least 6 or 7 grammatical traditions exist, starting from Babylonian, Egyptian, Arabian, Chinese, and Greek, Latin, and Indian tradition. So Indian tradition is actually very predominant, very eminent among all these traditions. And among the Indian tradition, there are 2 streams you can see. The dominant is Sanskrit grammatical tradition. Another is non-Sanskritic. In the non-Sanskrit tradition, Tamil tradition has a very important place. So, if you want to know the complete Indian grammatical tradition, you must also know about the non-Sanskrit tradition, especially the Tamil. So, this was the idea when I joined there. Professor Anvida Abhi invited me to offer a course in the Indian grammatical tradition in her linguistic course. I offered for 2 semesters, and it was enriching for me and also for the students to learn more about the things. So, during that period, this Tolkāppiyam, as I have told you, among the Tolkāppiyam draws from many ideas from the Sanskrit tradition, and he was very generous in allowing the Sanskrit words to be used in literary compositions and even the earlier period. That was a very great generosity, I would say. And also, but at the same time, he was very careful to establish the autonomy of Tamil language. The autonomy of languages, that is Sanskrit and Tamil, they belong to different linguistic groups. You know, when you talk about the linguistic families in India, there are predominantly now Indo-Aryan, Dravidian, and Austro-Asiatic, Chino-Tibetan, and of course, Anvida B will add this Andaman Nicobaris. So the 5 family groups. So India is a land of languages. It is a culture. It is a plural culture. It is a diversity. It is the diversity, the hallmark of Indian culture. Diversity in language, literature, culture, and everything. So this diversity should be promoted. So, diversity is the essence of Indian, the polity, Indian, how to say, Indian culture, the living as Indians. If you want to live in Indian, you must know not only the Sanskrit-based culture, you must non-Sanskritic culture, Dravidian culture, Chino-Tibetan culture, or Austro culture. I think our new president represents the Austro-Asiatic family. I am very happy she is given that preeminent position. It is the way we have to develop the tolerance, mutual respect, learning. I want to emphasize that there is an adage in Sanskrit, familiarity in English, familiarity breeds contempt. It is a wrong notion. Familiarity breeds love. That is the message you must learn from the Indian way of. That is the message of Indian culture, Indian message. So India is a land of migrants, like the United States. And maybe I'm talking about migrants. I am not talking about the race, only the languages. It's a migration of languages. Among the languages, if you look at the who is autonomous, who is autochthonous, who is origin, I would say that either the Austroasiatic and Tibeto-Burman and Dravidian languages could be more original to the land, and Indo-Aryan language came later. I'm not talking about the speakers. So now the Indo-Aryan speakers dominate in statistics, but many of the Indo-Aryan speakers are migrant from these three groups. See, especially the many Dravidians migrated to the Indo-Aryan domain. So it's not. I'm not talking about the ethnicity. I'm talking about the languages. So even though the languages are imported or native, now we have been living together for 2000 years. So one cannot be a monoculture, one cannot be monolingual, one cannot be how to say, mono religion. It should be multiple. So that is the message of India, and that is represented in JNU, and we want to strengthen that notion in JNU. That's why we have undertaken this project, and we have completed it, and it has been published by the Institute of Central Indian Institute of Classical Tamil, and it is beautifully brought out. But I have a few words about the translation. I cannot elaborate on the way how the Balasubramaniam has done. He's very chaste Hindi. He writes very good Hindi, even respected by Hindi scholars. I used to review it with our Hindi colleagues, and many of our colleagues, especially our Saha and other people, will reject many Hindi translations from Tamil. No, it is not at all Hindi. It looks like something like. But when I showed this translation to Saha or Raman Sinha, they will say it looks Hindi. It is good. It is very intelligible. It is more familiar to us. So that is the hallmark of that is the characteristic of Balasubramaniam. He imbibed a very native idiom, having lived in Delhi for many years. So his language, he also is a Sanskrit scholar. So he could bring in his knowledge in different domains. And so, if you want to want me, if you permit me, I can read one or two small passages how he has translated. Because there is a one aspect of love in Tamil where the not the one who is how much one who is in love with other girl or other boy who are one-sided love. If they want to achieve that, they can make a stages dharna in between in front of the girl's house. It is called a model. A model is a kind of convention where the boy uh, stages a dharna in between in front of the girl's house, making a horse with the stakes of palmyra. Palmyra has a sharp edges which will cut the flesh. He will ride on it, and he will draw a picture of that girl, and he will be sitting there in dharna for many days, demanding the parents of the girl to give the girl in marriage. That is called model. And the same thing, the same method cannot be done by a girl out of modesty. So there is a sutra in TOLKΑPPIYAM, the third part, and our Balasubramanian will translate it very beautifully, and he will give interpretation also. Our way of doing, I'm not going to go into detail. We give the original verse and poetic translation, and then examples, and then notes, elaborate notes. So actually the original project was just to transliterate and translate the original verse, but we have added examples, we have added notes. That's why it has come big. They actually discouraged not to do that, but we did it out of our love for this subject, and also to do justice to the work. So in the model, எத்தனை மருங்கினும் மகடு மடல் மேல் பொற்புடை நெருமி இன்மையான. So the girl cannot do this model or the stage dharna, and he will translate it like this. See, किसी भी कुल के धर्म में शोभनीय पता नहीं है, स्त्री का मॉडल पर चढ़ना. This is the translation. So I can give more examples. So the translation looks like as if it is Tamil for us. It could be more intelligible to the Hindi speakers. So I recall all his sweet memorable moments with him in this occasion, and I congratulate Dr. Damodaran and his colleagues for continuing our work there and examining this, reviewing this work with many, inviting many scholars, organizing this event. And finally, since the Vice Chancellor is not there, I have one request that during my tenure as a chairperson, I tried to bring in more Indian languages into CAL. And as a result, I think I heard that Kannada and Odia, Assamese must have come. Odia, Kannada, I am sure. I am not sure about the other languages. The Bangla has been there, but I don't know whether it has been filled up. And I would like to see that all Indian languages are represented in CAL so that more fruitful cooperations and academic things will take place so that our familiarity will breed love, not contempt. The contempt is outside the academic field, in the political field. So, with these few words, I congratulate all the organizers, all the people, and finally, I have normally I don't complain people. The people who published this work, uh, Central Institute of Classical Tamil has unfortunately did two mistakes, two omissions. One is they have omitted the glossary of grammatical terms we have meticulously collected and finalized. Tamil, Hindi, Hindi, Tamil glossary is a very valuable academic tool. Unfortunately, the editors they listen to the opinion of the printers. You know the limits of pages, form, things like that. They did not know the value of that. The editorial board may be ignorant. Ignorant editorial board has. I condemn that. They have omitted that good portion of that last pages very meticulously. Myself and Balasubramaniam prepared. I'm really very sorry for that. And then it is a personal thing. I found recently. I found that Balasubramaniam was very generous in pricing and sharing his credit. Actually, you know, the project head is me, so this should go in my name. So he insisted, sir, it should come in your name. No, I didn't. So this bulk of the work was done by you. So your name should appear first. I am only an assistant. So he's such a very noble soul. And so he wrote very generously about me. But all those passages, our editors of this text have removed. This is not injustice to me, injustice to Balasubramanian. I am sad to record this. Here I should not be negative on this occasion, but I felt it and it should be recorded. That's why I revealed this information to you. And with these remarks, I congratulate all the people who are connected with this, and I wish the CAL and School of Languages, JNU, many more fruitful years with a new setup and new young blood. I hope it will develop into a great institution in future. I wish you all the best wishes. Thank you.